Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. I'm Aurora. It's August 29th, and this is the Level 2 material. This is Level 1 for this week is all about, and let me get my thing going here too, the flying rainbow lasagna and how that relates to DNA, and like food for your intellect, not necessarily exactly how to do the dance yet. Just going to drink a little bit, thank you. And the Level 2 presentation is all about harmonics. And harmonics absolutely relates to our DNA and to so many of the other things that I teach about in this class. So also what you see over here is, this is my little instrument. And this is my little oscilloscope. And so an oscilloscope is basically a sound visualizer. And usually they show the sound waves going laterally across the screen like this. But this particular one shows it as if sound waves are spiraling away from you, like down a big long tunnel. And everybody always asks, it's an app that is called Vocal Shapes. And I'll include the link, even though I have this on, it's on an old tablet because there's no support for the Vocal Shapes app. Like you can't upload it on your newer tablet. It only runs on one of the older OSs. So you can find it, but I don't think that there's support for it. But I do like to give credit where credit is due to the lovely creators of this, software. And so what it does is shows an example of, well, first I'll just bring it a little bit closer and show you. Here's my regular speaking voice. Oh, there you go. La la la, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah. Even my regular speaking voice is pretty organized. Now I'll play one tone, okay? One note. So that, oh wait, I'll play a piano note. Play one piano note. Okay, one note pretty much looks like one circle. Now I'm going to put it up on its little stand. Good. And I'm going to play, first I'll play one C, and then I'll play two C's at the same time. And when I play two C's at the same time, you're going to see a big circle and a little circle, and they're connected with a little curly cue. So here's one C. So that little curly cue shows us, I would say, an overtone. What do I mean by an overtone? Let's get to pictures. Pictures, friends, pictures are happening. Wait, this is from Level 1. Let's make this go away. Let's make this go away. We did all these pictures already. Did super quietly. Harmonic overtones. And get to the, sometimes the annotation doesn't come up. It's just very annoying. What you see here is exactly like what we have learned about in this class already in terms of the structure of both wavelength and frequency that relates to the various colors and proportions in this structuring of not only the chakras or energy centers, but also the flying rainbow lasagna. So remember, we did homeworks 1, 2, and 3, and they all involved understanding these exact proportions. And these exact proportions, get the annotation there, annotation, thank, praise the various gods. Here, let's just do this. So let's play, here's a C, this is middle C. And here's a C that is 8 notes higher. They're the same note, but you can tell one is higher. So what is happening? I have the first C is a certain wavelength, and the second C is literally half of the wavelength. So if this is the first note, we're starting, this is how long the vibrating string is. To make the next C, what we do is we make it half that size that it is, I'm sorry, my words are not even working here. We're talking about wavelength and frequency. Well, first of all, what is harmonics? What is this, harmonics, and how does this relate to everything? Harmonics means perfectly nested sound waves. So that means that if we take this as the first wave, this long, whatever, however many units, 10 units long, all of the other units must fit within 10 units. We can't have one of these little squiggles that ends up being 10 and a half, 10 and 3/4, 11, 12, 13, or any other. That would not be perfectly nested harmonic. That would be noise. Let us play some noise. That's not harmonics, that's noise. So this has everything to do with organized waves, and those organized waves can be auditory and they can be visual. So we've been doing visual waves in the homework where I made you draw a big giant red circle, and then I made you subdivide that red circle. Let's draw it properly into 2 orange circles. Well, look at this. Look at here. Look at here. 2 orange circles can fit within 1 red circle. And let's go even further now. At this point, the little model here, the diagram that I'm using breaks down because this is not something that I drew, but then you get to divide up. Can you see that on your screen? Yellow, big fat yellow scribbles. 3 big fat yellow scribbles. Look at that. And then we divide it up into 4 greens. 4 green scribbles. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 5 light blue, 6 dark blue, and 7 violet. We'll just go up to 7 violet here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So don't pay attention to their colors. Pay attention to my colors so you know what's going on here. And this is what, so we have the basic harmonic visual proportions. Should I get that picture for everyone? Never mind. You did your homework, you know what I'm talking about. But now what we're talking about are auditory proportions, where you have the original note, and then you have it subdivided into smaller notes. Now, when their notes are subdivided, I would want to call it a subnote, but in musical terminology, someone else other than me decided to call these overtones. So in music, you have the primary note that is called the fundamental. That's the first note that we'll be singing or playing. And within that primary note, there are subtleties that are also at play that are not as loud as the original note, but that are still part of the richness of the music that we hear. So in a piano, that's an actual grand piano, there's an actual string that vibrates, a little hammer plucks the string, and then you hear the waveforms of that string. You know, hear the waveforms of that string going across like this. And within that waveform, there are all of these other subtle waveforms that make it sound better than just a dead, flat note. And this is why we do, this is why we make music the way we do it, so that it doesn't sound like dead, flat, horrible music. Hold on. Like we intentionally find strings and other things that are resonant so that the tone has a richness to it. So now that you understand what I'm talking about when I say what an that's what an overtone is. So I'll do an example in my voice and I'll show you on the oscilloscope. But what I also wanted to get across here is, you know, this note and this note, they are separated by their wavelength. This note is half the size as this note. This note is moving faster. I'm sorry, I'm not describing this properly. The wavelength of this note is smaller than this note. And the frequency of this note is faster than this note. This note is bigger and slower, and this note is smaller and faster. And their relationship mathematically is you know, by 2. So this is twice as fast. This is twice as big. They're doubling, all right? So on my, now let's go back to this thing over here. Don't worry, I'll relate this all to everything that we've been doing in the class. So here's, this is C, a lower C note. Here, I'll play a lower C. Looks like a circle. Now I'll play a higher C. It looks like a circle. It's this same relationship of notes. This one is slower and bigger. This one is faster and higher. Let's play them both together. So you can literally see one makes a bigger circle, one makes a smaller circle, and they're connected by a little loop. Now I can make overtones with my voice, and I'll bring this closer so that my voice will be closer and you can see this a little bit more. So wait, and stop this. First we'll just do my regular speaking voice, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm going to sing. You'll hear me sing one note that might sound like a droning note, but then you will hear subtleties that are like the other subnotes or overtones, and it might sound like this to you. Do 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 do. You already see it out there. Okay. I hope that you can hear the subtleties there. You can hear the drone easily, but then within that you'll hear do 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 do. And in here you can see that there's circular patterns with these little curly cues or little florets kind of coming around. And even when I'm speaking, you can see sometimes it just looks like a bunch, like a cloud, a bunch of disorganized stuff. But sometimes this looks, let's see, blah, 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 blah. And then here, let's see if we can get a bit more organized, a bit more organized. Pretty organized. That was pretty good. So yeah, that's harmonic overtones. And just very briefly, what is happening when you're doing harmonic overtones is you create one note with your vocal cords down here, and then with your mouth and lips and teeth and soft palate do the do-do-do-do-do-do. It's like little subtle changes throughout there. Since I've got this pulled up here, let me show you this. Can I do this? Wait, take out this thing. It's so hard sometimes. No, stop share. Stop share. Go back to this thing. I want to show you this picture. This picture. So this is a screenshot from the same app of my friend's Tibetan, singing bowl that she got. It is not a fancy looking bowl. It does not have, it's not shiny, and it's not perfect looking. It's not symmetrical looking. It's kind of a little bit humble and like not that special looking. But she got it from this family of bowl makers that are in the Himalayas, and they do this thing. It's a metal alloy. It's made of all these different, metal mixed together into one metal. And when I struck that, made one note with that and showed on the oscilloscope. This is what that instrument looks like. So that is striking one note and seeing what it looks like. Look at that. It looks like perfect overlapping symmetrical sound waves. So even though the instrument might not have been very pretty and shiny looking, it was perfectly tuned. It made these perfect overtones. Okay, these perfect not only overtones but visual representations of what these auditory overtones look like. Blah blah. Why am I telling you all of this? Or why are you giving us this extensive music lesson? Why do I need to know about all this? Harmonics relates to our non-physical body. What I'm continually showing you all about here. Do I need to show a picture? Oh, and this is what I wanted to show, but blah, blah, all these different things. You know what I'm talking about. Harmonics relates to here, this. We are made of harmonics. These non-physical structures that are about our physical body are absolutely arranged harmonically. And what is this? How did this happen? Why? Blah, blah. So we are emanations of consciousness light, not just physical light, from the sun. And our bodies and our minds and our own personal emanations are organized according to these harmonic patterns. What is cymatics? I should write this out for everyone. If you're not familiar with this, it's definitely something worth looking into. Let's draw it, write it here. So cymatics is what happens when you take I'll draw it out, like a plate. Like let's say this is my little plate and I'm gonna put some sand or little tiny dots or whatever, baby talcum powder on there. And then I'm gonna use something to vibrate the edge. I'm gonna use like a violin, you can use a violin bow or like, a mallet or something like that. And basically you make the plate vibrate. And as you make the plate vibrate, all of these little dots start to vibrate into patterns, and the patterns look startlingly like my paintings. And that ain't by surprise, that ain't by accident or whatever. So cymatics has to do with organized, harmonic, vibratory patterns that organize matter, that these music patterns actually organize matter. So it happens on a larger scale and it happens on the scale of you. So we have, consciousness waves that are organizing the matter of your own body, but we also have galactic super waves that organize the matter of the solar system is what I'm trying to say. Not only the solar system, but much more. Wait. Move this thing around. I know I already did teaching all about the sun and the stars. And so that this is galactic superwaves. So you've got, here's a planetary nebula. I'm making little bits of dust and gas and stuff. It's a big giant cloud that has never been anything. And now let's draw a giant galactic superwave. Galactic superwave comes through, and it's like a vibration, like a cymatic, like a organizing the little talcum powder on the dish. It starts to organize all of these little particles and gases to begin to coalesce together and eventually to become a star. So the birth of a star, or the conception of a star, has everything to do with these galactic superwaves that are harmonic patterns of consciousness at large in the cosmos that begin to organize not only matter like dust and gas into stars, but also consciousness. And those stars then emit light, which is what this person is made out of, light. So Cymatics brings the stars into being. The stars then emit light and their own frequencies and vibrations. And this is what we are. We are perfect harmonic fractal emanations of this big, giant, perfect harmonic structure that is in the sky. And okay, I just did lesson 1, how this all relates to your DNA. So lesson 1 was flying rainbow lasagna as a tool for restructuring your DNA. And these are my fancy, fancy pipe cleaners that I use to represent your DNA. So this is like a vibrating string, right? So I've just gotten through by saying that your we have all of these patterns that we can do that are harmonic, perfectly nested circles, that basically your DNA is connected to time, and that there's a particular type of waveform or well-structured music that you can make with your DNA that leads you to continued life, continued existence. And that's what, I'm encouraging everyone to embrace here. That's the basic upshoot of this particular presentation today. Let me get to the question from Rainbow Body. She says, slightly related, have always wondered if the half steps between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8 cause spiral helix in the scale in a C major scale between E, F, B, C ad infinitum. I'm not sure if I'm understanding, but I think that I'm understanding. I might need to see it as a picture, but I think I get it. The idea of, you're talking about maybe the circle of fifths and going around the kind of like climbing the ladder of frequency as you go around in this thing. I think that's what you're talking about. So I thumbs up to you, and I think that I'm relating to that. This is a slightly related question or whatever of people who ask because so this instrument over here is tuned to 432. That's A at 432, which is actually different than this A. You can't probably hear it unless you're totally perfect pitch trained or something like that. But so this instrument is tuned slightly differently than my usual, factory-made piano down here. And there's a lot of different people who talk about what is correct. Like, is 432 correct, or 528, or some of these other, there are all these different approaches to it. And I would say that there's not one right and not one wrong. Like, if you look at my flying rainbow lasagna, the colors here, sometimes I use a color here that's very pinkish or very maroon, but it's still red. It reads as red. And sometimes, my violets might be very dark and plummy, or they might be very light and lilac-y, but it still reads as purple. So that's how I'm understanding these various different tunings. So I'm saying that there's validity to all these various different tunings, but the issue is 440. So this A over here is at 432, and 432 is a lovely multiple or divisor of 8. But 440 is not, and our hemispheres of our brain connect at roughly 8 hertz, and that's why music that is tuned to 432 or multiples of 8 is more comfortable and happy for us. And these are generalities, what I'm saying now, but just the main emphasis or takeaway, you don't have to get too much into it, is that our world right now is out of tune. Not only our music is not tuned to our planet and our biology, but same thing with time. And music is a time-based expression. So my painting doesn't matter about time. So I've got to look at this painting on the right beat. But music, you have to play at the right beat, and time signature has everything to do with it. So yes, music and our connection to time. And if you like in the same way that we're dividing the day up into 12 hours or 24 hours, and 12 is a very weird number to divide things into. Why are we choosing 12? Why not 10 or 20? Like we have 20 digits of our heads. Like, why do we do these weird things? It puts us out of tune. Our music on the radio is slightly out of tune. Our time, the way that we have it chopped up during the day is slightly out of tune. All these things are, they make us slightly out of tune. So wait, now let's talk about harmonics in our solar system. So I talked about our bodies as being a harmonic expression, but also our solar system itself is harmonically arranged. So just in the same way, this is a picture of galactic superwaves coalescing a planetary nebula into the beginnings of a star. But we also have, let me just talk a little bit too. If this is the sun over here, such a weird color. It's supposed to be red. That's so funny. Here. Here's the sun with like all sorts of rays shooting off of it, right? And that's the center of our solar system. All of the other planets and their orbits are all arranged according to harmonics. Just like in your homework, there are certain intervals, like how wide is this interval, how wide is this interval. That's all, there's a pattern that is supposed to be followed in terms of where the planets are situated. So we've got, Mercury, Venus, here's Earth, right? And then we'll go to Mars. Mars is going to be red, of course. These are not the best drawings of orbits. And then what comes after Mars? Everyone's going to be like Jupiter. I'm like, no, the asteroid belt. Here's crunchy asteroids, the asteroid belt. The asteroid belt used to be a planet, and now it ain't a planet anymore. And then here's, Jupiter is the next orbit over here. So in between the orbits of Jupiter and Mars, there's an area where there's supposed to be a guitar string. This is how we can understand this. Just I can get the guitar from across the room. But imagine that my hand is a set of guitar strings. And imagine that we're like, well, we've got this string and this string, but then what? There's no string there. There's supposed to be a string there, but there is not a string there. And then we go right on to this one. That is our solar system. So in terms of the arrangement of our planets, it is evident that there is a note missing or a string missing. There's something that ain't there that is supposed to be there. And where there is supposed to be a planet, there's presently a bunch of rubble. There's the asteroid belt. So this is evidence of the harmonic, the disharmonic or disharmonizing of our solar system. Almost as if someone took a perfectly tuned guitar and not only twisted the knobs so that some of the knobs were out of tune, but even took away a string. So the whole string here is missing. And let's talk about the planets that have knobs taken away. Here's Venus and Mars. Why do I say that those have been twisted or their knobs taken away or they're out of tune? Because those guys do not have magnetosphere. There is no, Mars does not have a healthy functional magnetosphere, and neither does Venus. And that's like saying they're dead corpses. They are dead corpses floating in the sky, and then you have this one that's not a dead corpse. It's like been disintegrated. There's not even a corpse there. It's like cremated. There's something happened to our solar system. Even science can recognize this, or the objective materialist teaching can recognize this. So there's an aspect to the harmonic organization of our solar system that has been disrupted. So harmonics is literally this type of music. Oh, I'll show you this picture too. Because when I first did an art show, I think maybe in like 2003 or 2004, I had only been here on Earth for a very short amount of time. And I didn't know a lot of things. Wait, I show this picture all the time. Let me stop talking, do one thing at a time. First, let me find the picture. This picture. Made this painting a long, long time ago, and I went to this art show a long time ago, like kind of whatever, like 2004, 2005. And I didn't have a lot of, vocabulary and articulation as I do now. I did a lot of self-education, in this time to be able to speak like this. So this guy came up to me at the art show and he said, you are painting harmonics. And I just nodded thoughtfully like this. I was like, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. I had no idea what the word harmonics meant. I actually wrote it down in a little notebook and went home and looked it up and then eventually self-educated all about this stuff. So yeah, what I've been doing since I came here into this body, into this world as Aurora, is I've been perceiving with my inner vision. You know, it's like raw data. It is like uninterpreted, just information from the telescope. And I didn't know that there was a word for what I was looking at, and that it related to the physical structures of reality, such as, you know, music and even light waves. So that was huge education to me, because all this stuff that I've been drawing that is also representing harmonics is, this is about time. So we have harmonics that can be auditory. That's, you know, my little instrument over here. Oops, here, make a nice pretty sound. Auditory harmonics. What I'm painting, what's on my dress, it's visual harmonics. But we can also have harmonics in terms of time. And I would say that's what the healthy and functioning, you know, when our chakras and our body are perfectly integrated, I would say that's what we're doing. We are playing the right music as musicians in time. So Pedro's got a question and says, how much sun gazing is needed to FRL the asteroid belt back to a planet? Elena, this is a great question. So, okay, I love the direction that you're coming from, because you're like, bucket in my, you're like, let's roll up our sleeves. We're gonna have to fix things. And I love that. But I don't know if that is the appropriate approach, because it's kind of like once something has already come to this level, then it's not, we don't necessarily just want to like walk backwards and try to like rewind the tape to what it originally was. We might want to reassemble, but in a new or better format. So yeah, so the distinction that I'm trying to make is that we don't necessarily just want to reverse time, rewind time, you know, kind of like see the asteroid belt rewinding in time and coming together and being what it once was. And I think that that understanding also relates to our physical bodies and the planet that we're on right now. I think that we should look to a sense of restructuring, but not archaic restructuring. We don't have to restructure in the exact same format that we once had, because clearly there were vulnerabilities or inadequacies to that structure, and then became, you know, distorted into these structures. So I would say, let's not go back to the exact same structure. Let's go to an even better structure. And so we're, in terms of sun gazing, so you would have to ingest enough energy to develop the thought form that you believe that it is possible to ameliorate the death of a planet. And that is, well, let's also talk, a planet isn't a live person, or like a dog or a cat or whatever, and you loved them, but they're gone. Is this like Pet Cemetery? You want to go bury your cat in a magical, whatever, magical circle, and then it will come back all like matted and gross and horrible? Like, no, we don't want that. We want to have like a real revivification, but I don't think that that is possible by just rewinding time, because this is like, can we revivify dead pets? Can we revivify dead people? What is the solution to death? So my answer would be that we don't want to simply take the fragments of something that's dead, like Pet Cemetery, slap it together, you know, Frankenstein's monster, suture it all together, put it on a magical circle, and then lightning it and have it reanimated back to life. I don't think that's the solution. I think that the solution is to move to a different timeline where the planet is alive and in pristine shape. So just like, you know, I had a beautiful cat and she died 2 years ago. What does that mean? It means that my timeline diverged from her timeline. We'll draw it. So here, clear this all out. Sorry, I have to continually clear it out. You guys got bored by looking at that. Here's my timeline. Oh, that's not right. No, go back, go back. Come on, stop. I just cleared it out. That's so annoying. Okay, wait, go back. I pressed the wrong button, everyone. I'm devastated. Okay, good. Here's my timeline in red. And here's my cat's timeline in blue. Right? And so this is the area of coincidence over here. And so to my experience, after this moment here, she is no longer alive on my timeline, but she still lives in this area of time field over here. Like, look, here's a nice long timeline where she exists, but none of the red overlaps over there, so I'm not perceiving her there. But I know that she exists over there. So in order to have, my timeline and her timeline overlap, like here's my timeline over here, and she's the blue timeline over there, we would have to do like a bending and folding of space, time, and consciousness to be able to bring these two things together so that they can, meet and interact again. You would have to do something like that with a planet. You would have to say, the planet that became the asteroid belt is not alive on this timeline, but is alive on a distant timeline. And we don't overlap with that timeline where that planet is alive. So in order for you to have a timeline where you're alive and it's alive, you then have to do an overlapping of two timelines. So it's a large amount of sun gazing to do that level of overlapping. A large amount of sun gazing. Pedro then asks, is it then better to gather the asteroids to form a new planet? I would say that it is not necessary to take the asteroids and form them into a new planet. Because I know what you're talking about. You're saying like, well, hey, like we got to get the guitar back into tune. And this speaks to like how we heal our bodies and things like that. How much cleanup do we have to do? Do we have to make a new planet be there in order for our solar system to be rebalanced? I would say we don't necessarily have to take those asteroids and smush them together into a new planet, because part of this is a journey of acceptance, where you say, I accept that this happened. You don't try to pretend like it didn't happen. Any scar that you have on your personal body, because this is all analogous. There's a scar on our solar system. That's like saying there's a scar on your body. And we don't have to pretend that it isn't there, pretend that it didn't happen, like it definitely happened. So I think that I'm trying to sense your motivations. Perhaps in your motivation, there's the desire to make it look pristine, like the scar never happened. But what I would prefer, or what I think is a better goal, is to make the behavior, the function, act correctly. That if we're going to play the guitar, it's like, that sounds horrible because there's no guitar string there. We need to play the guitar so that it sounds good. So that could mean replacing the guitar string, or it could mean some other level of restructuring so that the music sounds good. Yeah. Oh, Pedro says, you got me. I asked these exaggerated examples because I want to fix my teeth. I totally understand. So if you have had some kind of injury to your physical body, something relatively small like a cosmetic scar, or something huge like a spinal injury or an amputation, in all of their profound healing is possible. And I use myself as an example, like my brain and neurological issues, and I keep on healing from them. But to me, the answer is I keep aligning with timelines. I keep changing my timelines from being more skewed to being more and more and more in alignment with that central core timeline. So I keep moving my needle of awareness away from the periphery where the injuries happened and towards the central column where there is no injury. So I would say it's a question of, and all of us are on this journey, continually aligning ourselves with that central core timeline. On that timeline, none of the insults had happened to any of us. None of the crapola, like none of the rapes or violences or starvations or scarrings had happened. Like we have a perfected body. Like we were never supposed to experience any of these craps. We're never supposed to experience any of this suffering. We're never supposed to experience any disease. All of those things are aberrations. And I should start saying that in this class too. It's not just death is the aberration. Suffering is the aberration. We were not supposed to experience any of those things that harmed and diminished our physical structures. So yeah, if you had an amputation or an injury or a car accident or whatever it is, the healing and rectification is jumping onto a timeline where those injuries did not actually happen. Wait, I'm drinking. But for right now, in the moment of suffering the aftermath of those injuries, like we need to heal, and that means an acknowledgement that the injuries happened and that the perpetrators happened too. Like before we're ready to fix the asteroid belt in our solar system, we got to say, hey, who did this? Why did this happen? And I'll just say like a little bit, in my own experience of coming into this physical body, it's just like when you see the asteroid belt, you're like, hey, something happened. This is screwed up. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. This is like me coming into this body. I came into this body and like, hey, like something is screwed up. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. And then I had to delve. I had to look and I had to say, what happened in the life experience of this body that created this injury? What happened in the emotional experience? What happened in all these different things? So yeah, a great portion of my journey here in this body has been recognizing that injuries happened and rectifying them. And the rectification did not necessarily mean that I ignored or denied that the initial injury happened. It meant that I had to do whatever was the corrective experience. And for some aspects of it, it was a speaking about the thing that happened that had not been effectively spoken about, and that was an enzyme that unlocked the experience, that I said things that needed to be said, and in saying them, I could release what had been held as information in the body. So not all of our journeys are the same. I'm just using that as an example, but that's the type of healing that we need to do. So I don't think that we can just be like, oh, just get an eraser and we'll just erase out the asteroid belt and pretend that that never happened. Or if you had a rape or a car accident or something in your life that created dents and scars, you need body work because the body of the car got smashed up. I don't think that it's a question of erasing it out, but I think, so we're in this process of healing and rectification. At the end of the process, all of our bodies will be perfect, including the solar system, and the perpetrators will be in a state of non-existence. That's maybe a little bit hard for us to wrap our minds around in this moment, but if there was a rapist or a person that harmed you, that person will no longer be in existence, and nor will any of the reverberations of their actions. So including any harm that they did to your body, but we're not at that level yet. So that's why I always think, like, when I try to say these things, I'm like, oh my God, I hope no one's going to take this out of context and think the wrong things. Like, I'm trying to be really, I'm like clear in the way that I describe all of this. But yeah, what's eventually going to happen is the perpetrators go to entropy. So in our solar system, yes, eventually we might see a beautiful, pristine planet in the place of where there is now an asteroid belt. In order to get to that level of rectification, we have to recognize some evil, bad thing came along and did this evil, bad thing, and now we have to, recognize that and remove the bad thing that happened, and that therefore makes it possible for this thing to continue in a state of health and existence as if it never got harmed. And the words are really laborious and hard for me to describe it. So I hope that you can tune into the intent and the energy of what I'm saying, so that it doesn't. It's always so challenging for me to get these ideas across. Okay, let me go to more questions. And you're asking beautiful questions, Pedro. So Pedro, to you personally, there's a timeline where your teeth are completely fixed and healed. And I would say that it's not a rewinding to your infanthood or early childhood when your teeth were healthy. I would say it is a rectification after the fact. Like you will be healed to the point where your teeth are healthy and they cannot be broken or destroyed ever again. It's even better than it was. And same thing with our planet. Our planet was harmed and raped and invaded. We're not going to walk backwards and go into our same footsteps from before we got raped. We're going to actually be after. We're going to be stronger, better, more well-structured, and not have to have these experiences again. Miniman says, what about suffering like broken heart, loneliness, depression, isolation, frustration, disappointment, anger, rage, fear? Is that also not meant to happen? Yeah, I would say those are all aberrations. And many people say, well, suffering is necessary so that we can learn, and we're in a schoolhouse here, but I'm really much more about the joy. The joy. You can learn much better through joy than you can through loneliness and depression and suffering and brokenheartedness. A lot of those emotions that you're describing also have to do with having a limited viewpoint, not having the higher faculties activated, because when you have the higher faculties activated, you get much more of a long-range telescopic view where you can say, oh, this thing happened because it was connected to this, and it was connected to this, and it unfolded because of this. So I think you get a lot more insight. You got a lot more perspective from your insight when it's active. But when insight is not active, then it just seems like, it seems like the world is a horrible, monstrous place full of crazy, random crapola and a lot of bad stuff. And that's not truthful, but I understand that viewpoint. Cheryl says, when I first open my eyes in the morning, I can see a pattern all over my bedroom walls and ceiling that looks startlingly like one of your paintings, Laura, except it's all in pale golden shades rather than rainbow colors. And the more awake and alert I become, the less pronounced and noticeable the pattern becomes. When this first started happening several months ago, the pattern was very subtle and just barely noticeable, but it kept getting more and more distinct each morning. And now when I first open my eyes every morning, the pattern is very noticeable and unmistakable. What do you think this is about? I think that you are beginning to see the map of time, and that, so probably I'm just, projecting here, like, because when I wake up in the morning, like, I kind of like, I think like I'm like still a little bit dreaming, like I'm not fully in my, hard-edged intellectual mind state. I think perhaps that's truthful for you too. It's a little bit easier for you to be in your higher dimensional vision, kind of like when you're first waking up in the morning and not totally solidified in your, earthly personality. I would say kudos to you, like thumbs up, you're going in the right direction, because this is what I talk about. Like when you start doing the flying rainbow lasagna dance and people say like, I can't see anything, I can't hear anything, I don't know what I'm doing. What building blocks fit together? Like the more that you participate, the more that you start to have the experience that you're having. Like you're like, I actually see stuff. Like there's actually stuff there. There is actually stuff there. You are actually seeing something for real. And it gets clearer and sharper as you get more refined and more mature and more cultivated. It's just like being a little infant. Think of all of us being a little infant, and we're like wiping our little sleepy eyes and being like, there's stuff, there's something, and there's like, it's immobile. You're in your crib and there's a thing hanging up above your head and you're looking at it, there's an actual thing there. So yeah, there's an actual thing there. So congratulations, you're doing very, very well. Miniman says, what can or should an empath like me do to protect myself from the world of plain nonsense? Merkaba, Merkaba, Merkaba. Dude, totally, you need energetic immune system, because there's a lot of crap in the world, and there's a lot of crap that is like, minimally invasive, like, whatever's just sitting out there. And there's stuff that's intentionally invasive, like advertising or any of the stuff that's meant to like poke through your shields. I do shields up like 10 million times a day. And some places are so unpleasant to go into, like I can only be in there for a little bit of time. We're talking about like some whatever stores, some establishments. It's just, there are some places where like you don't want to even go in there. So shield yourself, if you have to go into, if you're walking around the world in general, but also avoid. I avoid like places like Walmart. We're talking about all these different, it's just not, it's a negative place. It's a low energy place. And yeah, going in there sucks your energy. So stay away from the low energy places and the low energy people too. Ines says, just read today about hidden traumas or mental wounds that sit as a sound tone in the glands, fascinating, and influence our mental and physical health. They said that singing higher tones and overtones and crystal singing bowls can override it. What do you think about such old mental disturbances of former life, which we are not aware of at all with regard to DNA recovery? Yeah. So one thing I didn't say about sound and vibration is that it is hugely connected to healing and restructuring the physical body. So I showed you that image from my friend's Tibetan singing bowl. There's evidence, like there's proof for the objective rationalist skeptic or whatever. Red blood cells. So before a sound bath where there's gongs and chimes and all these different instruments like this, they took blood from a person and showed their blood cells, their red blood cells were kind of mushed, not perfectly circular. Then they did a 45-minute sound bath where they were subjected to the sounds of gongs and chimes. And then they took another blood draw and they did imagery of what the blood cells looked like, and they all looked perfectly circular. That's just one example of the profound health changes and improvements that happen from being exposed to these right frequencies. The right frequencies. So I don't think that you'll experience very much healing if you expose yourself to heavy metal Metallica at top volume, because that's not organized sound waves. That's not music. No offense, I know a lot of people love Metallica, but it's not my music, and it ain't Bach. Bach is like the pinnacle of mathematical perfection and harmonic sound waves that fit together perfectly. Even Jimi Hendrix, why do I always bring him up a lot? Because he used feedback in a perfect way, making these perfect, harmonic loops that fit together like a total artist. So, Bach did it in a much more mathematical, rigorous intellectual approach. This type of music organizes you on a cellular level. And because auditory waves are literally vibrating the atmosphere. So everything in your body vibrates. This is when you listen to music as opposed to just listening to your headphones. Your eyeballs vibrate, your teeth vibrate, your cell membranes vibrate, your diaphragm vibrates, the bottoms of your feet vibrate, everything vibrates. So really exposing yourself to the right frequency of music can be incredibly healing, or the opposite can be incredibly diminishing. And even not even music, like I mentioned Metallica, but let's just talk about industrial noise. Now that I have a little dog, She's sleeping in her little bed over there. Before I got her, I was not even so aware of how many loud things are in our environment, but she's very reactive. If there's loud noises, she doesn't like it. So I gotta give her a little bribe or something like that. But everything, motorcycles, rolling garbage cans, bicycles, like all of these stupid things, now that I have her, I'm so much more aware of how disruptive some sounds can be. So just like I told you, like I gotta standing in the post office under the fluorescent lights, waiting to mail my package, and how draining it is. I feel the same thing, but in a different sense when I listen to some loud thing, the garbage truck, on Monday mornings, motorcycles, all these things. Most humans just write these off as just industrial noises, and we just kind of don't notice it. But each one of those noises has a disruptive impact on your emotions and your thoughts and your energy fields. And, if we lived in Atlantis or another more civilized time and place, like all of our vehicles that move down the road, if they made a noise, they would make a perfect harmonic overtone noise, like, whoa, 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 like, whoa, 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 like I'm making silly noises, but you understand what I'm talking about, that they would make beautiful, lovely music as they go down the street. So we have a largely unconscious world programmed by largely unconscious people that make noises and frequencies that keep you unconscious. And it ain't just elevator music. Like, I'm not just talking about Kenny G here. I'm talking about all of the horrible noises that we hear outside. They're not musical and they're not organized, and that affects us on a mental, emotional, and cellular level. So all of this. Healing tuning forks. So tuning forks, and just arrange myself here, were used in ancient Egypt as their incredibly civilized and sophisticated way of healing the body. The idea that you're going to cut your body open with a knife, like you're already sick, then you got to like cut your body open with a knife and you get worse, and then you got to get better somehow. Like none of that makes sense. So putting the right frequencies into our bodies can absolutely heal and ameliorate and rectify what is out of balance. And that's a big part of ancient medicine that's now being recognized and reawakened. Eleanor's got a question. She says, do timelines go to entropy at the galactic level? I mean, if that makes sense. Yeah, it does make sense. I would say that I'm trying to like measure how I'm going to put this into English words. Yes, timelines go to entropy. A better description would be when you level up into a higher dimensional state, some timelines collapse or become vestigial. Like how you have a vestigial organ, like, whatever, like, your tonsils or your appendix, like it doesn't do anything anymore. That is what happens to some levels, to some timelines, but that's kind of like after the fact. Like this is the time vortex, you've already exited that level of reality. A lot of the peripheral stuff collapses or becomes a moot point or becomes vestigial. It's like they're empty closets, no one is there, nothing is happening there. So it's like saying it has gone to entropy. Really good question. I'm only having trouble, I'm not trying to be coy, I'm only having trouble with like words and definitions. I think maybe I should draw it. It might be easier if I draw it. But let me see okay, wait. Pedro says, Mini-Man, Merkabah, your body, brain, cells, mind, and everything you can think of. That's good. I would really say that. I use Merkabah a lot, and I think that it's very effective for blocking out crapola. Eleanor, good to see you, says, I listen to your spaceflight concert at night as I sleep or travel. Thank you for your music. It speaks for itself about harmonics. Can't wait to hear more of your sounds and music. Thank you so much. So, okay, that actually gives me an opportunity to talk about this. I'm absolutely working on new music. So one of the things I want to do is take just the songs from Spaceflight. That was like a visual, it had visual and auditory components, and just release that as some audio tracks. But also I'm working on more, like Spaceflight was my first, approach to making music and doing lasagna auditorily, not just visually. And I feel now like I can do it so much better. And I also want to get a few more things with the computer, these software plugins, so that I can make even more sounds. Like I want to get some that involve like the sound of a violin or the sound of a cello. So I want to level up, make things even a little bit better, but more music is coming. And that's so, okay, years ago, someone asked me, Aurora, what sound does the flying rainbow lasagna make? And the answer is, like, I haven't found an earth instrument that approximates the sound, but it sounds kind of like some of the textured, layered guitar riffs that Jimi Hendrix does. It sounds kind of like, here, let's play it. So I love this instrument over here. Once I get going with some of these, tones, you'll start to hear like these crescendos. It sounds like these wonderful, crashing, wild crescendos. Let's play a little bit. It sounds like that, but even more, like lots and lots of crescendos on top of each other. So I'm still trying to approximate that sound. I'm still trying to come up with what the sound of spaceflight sounds like. I'm working on it. Christina says, whenever I hear the loud pipes from a motorcycle, I feel it deeply in my solar gut chakra and it makes me feel sick or shaken. Now I understand why. Yeah, definitely. And Ina says, and inclusive, you're singing, please. We do expect a word. Oh, absolutely. So I've been working on that too, on tuning my voice more, because I'm a perfectionist and I just want to release like crappy songs. So yeah, I had to do exercises for my voice so that when I sing, the notes will make the perfect round circle. So I often sing with this to be able to tell if I'm making the right shapes. So it's coming, guys. Thank you for that. And that's also, you can understand why, I've been focusing a lot on this class and a more intellectual approach to sharing these ideas. But I want to wrap up that approach and go much more into an immersive experience approach. Like you can imagine what it would be like if I had visualizations like this projected on a big giant dome and lots of gongs and chimes and recorded, layered voices and things like that. You could have a pretty intense experience, transformative too, and it could affect you on a cellular level beyond food for your intellect. So that's where I'm moving with this. Pedro says, could you help me clarify how the FRL works? If I see myself as a cube, does the FRL jump from every side outwards or just move side to side for each axis? I hope I explained it well. Yes, it does. You explained it very, very well. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I imagine myself as a cube, but I do imagine myself as one of these, or as having a stacked many of these, many components of these. And then what I imagine is that I've got these tendrils that like dancing and vibrating, but they don't all dance and vibrate at the same time. So, we'll go back to this picture. We've got this. This represents all of your chakras, all, joined up together. Oh, come on, do it. There we go. So I can draw. I imagine there might be this one jumping in and out like this, lasagna in this direction, but I can make this one lasagna in this direction. But what would that look like? So we've got a little round lasagna here, and here's the curly edge going around like this, and then this one going down like this. But this one, let's say, is a straight up and down like this. Terrible drawings, but you understand. And then this one we can make going in this direction. So every layer of your being can be doing an aspect of the flying rainbow lasagna dance at a different orientation, at a different angle. Or you can think about it as, many of these overlapping together. Yeah, so I don't necessarily just envision one of these while I'm doing this, but I want to keep it simple enough not to overwhelm. But it's just like saying, like, if I'm going to play a song, I can play one note at a time, or I can play 2 notes at a time. Then it gets even more awesome if I play 3 notes at a time. What if I play 4 notes at a time? So what if I play all of my chakras at a time? So you can just focus on one oscillation, but what if you can focus on multiple oscillations at a time? So that is how I visualize it. So if you saw me as a flying rainbow lasagna, it might look like all of this all overlap on top of each other. Meaty Man says, in Logic Pro X for Mac, you can almost do anything. I got to get Logic Pro X then. Eleanor says, 100% we're coming at us. Come on, girl. I'm doing it. Ines says, so work as our teacher on all levels of teaching us. It's great. Yeah. And also, I like to keep it fresh. I've done this class in an intellectual approach for a long time, but I need to stretch my own muscles a little bit. So doing the music is a very good way for me to communicate this. Yeah, but Ines says, the perfect teacher works on all levels to make people understand all levels of influence, intellectual, visual, auditory, and emotional. And then there's hope we get it all. That is absolutely my approach. Because I understand, like, if I just said, like, here's a bunch of dry mathematical concepts, like, you'd all be like, Roar, we want to die. Like, stop it. This is very boring. So I knew that I had to somehow make this fun and jazzy, to use music, to relate music to colors, to, you know, the shapes that and diagrams that we're working with. Like, it's about using the totality of who you are and to understanding things on that level. And that, like, my approach, you can tell, is totally different than the approach in regular school. Regular school is meant to cut you down. It's meant to knock you down and cut you into small pieces and make you less of yourself. But what I'm trying to teach here is, this is the concept I'm trying to teach, and I will teach it through visual stuff, through musical stuff, through, you know, humor and lightheartedness, through very serious math and physics type of thing. Like, you're a total person. You're not just one little, that school tries to cut you into a little tiny piece and make you smaller than you are, but you're a total person. I'm trying to speak to all of your levels. You're all the comedic levels, the artistic levels, the intellectual and scientific levels. Those aspects of self are what fuel your journey. You need all those aspects of self in order to go on your journey. I didn't say get out of here, because this is not about getting out of here, but this is about improving your journey. So on your journey, you will need, in order to travel effectively, all of your artistry, with your visual and musical artistry, all of your intellect, all of your athleticism, all of your badass warriorness, you know, all of your heart and your desire to be compassionate and help others. Like, you'll need all of these things. So yeah, I try to teach to all of these things. Thank you so much, Ines, for the recognition, because I try to be that type of a teacher that is, first of all, I care about my students very much, and I want the information to actually get into you. I don't want the information to just land on the surface and stay there. I want it to get inside of you and really nourish you. So I try in whatever ways I can to make it palatable and make something that you want to ingest. Miss Plugin says, I'm very happy to learn all the music theory. Plus, I play the gong, but I was kind of following my inspiration. Now I understand much more. Thank you. Yeah, and with the gong, you can do things like, the gong has a profound impact on both you, the player, and the audience, because it's such a big, giant, vibrating thing. Like, there's subtleties, and then there's crash and crescendos. Like, you know, because you play a note and it makes a waveform. You play another note, it makes another waveform. Like, it's just like in a painting. Like, you paint something red, but if you go over it again, then it gets redder and redder. Like, you intensify what you're doing. And that's what these harmonic overtones are. When you structure everything perfectly, there's structured intensification. And this is really a language beyond words. So it's ironic that I'm here describing it with words, but I really feel that we're moving into a level of experience. We will simply hear the music, feel it, and embody the music. And we're not going to have words to describe all of this. It's just going to be a very profound experience. Patricia says she loves gong baths. Yeah, they're very profound. I've experienced them myself. And Miss Plugin says, sometimes I hear like voices on the overtones. Yes, exactly. Sometimes we're humanizing something. We're hearing voices or seeing faces in something that is purely abstract. And also, I would totally agree that in those overtones, there's levels of subtlety, intelligence, and organization that, like, we need to pay attention to. And it's very, very different than listening to Led Zeppelin on the radio, even though I love Led Zeppelin on the radio. Pedro says, not only do you give us very tasty lasagna, but you teach us how to make it. Thanks, Aurora. You are very welcome. Thank you for being in the class. Pedro's a long-term student. I appreciate you very much. And I appreciate you and all of the students who are here, who have your own viewpoint, like your own way of looking at things and communicating it, and you share that with me, because that's musical rapport. Like, I play this, you play this, it sounds really awesome together. This is my approach. And I would also encourage you, like, when you sense my approach, I'm lighthearted, I'm about collaboration, I'm about all these different things. Like, those are the extraterrestrials that you want to associate with, okay? You know, not anyone who is like, I'm here to consume you, I'm here to, you know, completely take away your free will, I'm here to make you do everything in my way. Like, my approach is very different, and I would encourage you to keep on aligning with people that are like me. Christina says, I understand that the universe works or creates with zeros and ones. Is that right? Semi, yes, because I think that you're being heavily influenced by the binary system. So here's how you get, binary is duality. The idea that there can either be a zero, nothingness, or one, somethingness. But when I hold, so here, we'll do this fast, class, because I'm always almost at the end of my recording. Binary says we have the digit or the integer 0, and we have the digit or the integer 1. 0 and 1. But if I hold these up, how many things am I holding up? Answer. What's the answer? 2. I'm holding up 2 things. But wait, Aurora, I thought the only numbers that are supposed to exist in reality are 0 and 1. but those are two things. So there's the implication in the binary system of the next integer. It goes 0, 1, and then 2. And then once you do that, all you have to do is keep on adding 1. So the solution as to how to get out of the box is always in the box. Like the binary system is a system, it's great, it gives you some freedom and latitude, but then it's a box that you get stuck in. I got only zeros and ones, what can I do? Help me. The answer is, you don't have only zeros and ones. You don't have a symbol yet for how many things you have, but you have the number of things, you have 2 things. So that is how you get out of this level of diminishment that the binary gives us. Yeah, Pedro says, I think it is more like positive, negative, and neutral. And I would say that even in that, we're putting ourselves in a box, because what you really have is a gradation like the rainbow, where you have all these different levels of experience that are distinguished, but that they are not opposite. Like violet is not opposite of red. They're distinguished, but not opposite. So in talking with humans, many humans will say, we must have shadows to show the light. We must have darkness to be a complement or a counterpoint to the light. And I disagree. That's not what it's like in the world of pure light. You don't have to have like ugliness and poop in order to see the beauty and organization that is there. You can have a state of total light, total intelligence, total awareness, total organization without darkness, without poop. But what you can still see that there are differences. Like you can tell there are differences between these colors. You don't have to have black. You don't have to have darkness. So that's what I'm trying to say, that you can have contrast and distinguish levels without having to have darkness. So that speaks to the idea of positive, negative, and neutral. You can have those 3 things, but you can also have many, many other gradations beyond them. Patricia says, move into a tri-wave format. Yes, exactly. Miniman says, but 0 is the absence of 1 something. So in Miniman, you're saying that the only 2 states that can exist are nothingness and somethingness. And you can have very many different degrees of somethingness. Like you can have 1 somethingness or 2 somethingness or 2,000 somethingness. Is like, we can describe nothingness or 0 is a very descriptive term, but somethingness I think needs more description than that. Sharon says, Aurora, how do I find your music? Okay, good question, thank you. So I'm still in the process of uploading the tracks that are just the auditory tracks, but if you want to find my online concert, it's on my website. My webmistress just put it up there for me. So there's a new, if you go to flyingrainbowlasagna.com, you should see a little thing that says music and video, and you can click on that, and there should be a link for my Space Flight, is the name of my movie. So it's on Vimeo on demand. If you have any troubles finding it, I'll send you a link, but hopefully it should be easily found on my website now. Patricia says, contrast doesn't mean dark. Exactly. Because so many people think, I must have evil in order to learn my life lessons. No, you don't have to have a bunch of evil poop monsters in the world just so that you can learn your lessons. No, you really don't. And evil poop monsters will tell you that. They're like, I have to be in existence. I'm a didactic evil poop monster. Like, I'm here to teach you things. Like, no, you're not here to teach me things. You're just ugly, evil, and poopy. Get away. That is for real. So yeah, stop believing, please no one believe that we need to have poop for contrast. Eleanor says, Aurora, you mentioned last week a recording about cosmic law. Couldn't find it. Has been published. Not published yet. So give me a little bit more time on that. It's actually, I have a series of 5 roughly 1-hour recordings. It's a new series of conversations with a walk-in. I still need to process and write descriptions for and upload all those videos. So it's coming very soon. Thank you for your interest and enthusiasm. Actually, I'm excited to be able to share that with you too. So if I've gone through all of the questions, this is going to be a long upload. Let me stop the recording for right now. Eleanor says, oh, great. Wow, so looking forward to hear them and also to discover and dive into your space flight. Thank you very much, guys. I have to tell you, I'm actually super excited. Like, that is the direction that I want to move all of my work in. And did space flight as a live, kind of like a live concert, but from my own home, themed to other people's homes. But what I want to do is start experimenting with all sorts of, video effects, like special effects. If I did it recorded, and then I could take it and manipulate it afterwards in order to share these ideas. Beyond describing them, I'm realizing that I have, through video software and everything, I have all these tools available to be able to tell a story visually. I'm starting to do that, so I'm very excited about that. Pedro says, I remember something about star travel. You make your own self-environment. Is that what the American? Yes. You make your own microclimate. You don't have to carry like oxygen, a scuba tank of oxygen so you can stay alive in space. No, you make your own atmosphere. and your atmosphere keeps you warm or cool and dry and oxygenated and everything else. You become a miniature planet. Yeah, you don't need to wear a space diaper either. He says, is that how you can protect yourself from heat? Yes, and this also requires profound levels of expertise. So I would say, in your present state, really yellow caution flags on the idea of like, I'm going to like go to Mount Everest with no parka and just use my Merkaba to stay alive. Yellow caution flags. Like I would use the Merkaba more like this. I wore a parka and I did my Merkaba and I managed to survive, you know, sub-zero freezing temperatures, like the best case possible. So this is big because I think that ego can come up when people start to think about doing stuff that's magical or impossible. They're like, I will climb Mount Everest with no parka and I will prove to everyone that I'm a superhuman, that I'm better and whatever. Like, you gotta check your motivations. Check your motivations for any kind of thing where you're like, I want to prove it to other people. I want to show it to other people. Like, I want to take a selfie while ascending. Like, I'm ascending. I hope I get my good side. Like, I'm looking good. Like, when you're ascending, like, you don't got to prove it to nobody. You don't got to take a selfie. You don't have to prove your existence. You're existent. You're an eternal being. You're an eternal being. You don't have to prove it to anyone. So for many of these things that are superhuman powers, resistance to heat and cold, not having to eat or drink, you know, all these things, bilocation, you should check yourself if you think like, I hope that I can do this in a way so that someone else can take a picture of it and send it to the newspaper. Like, that's really the wrong motivation. So the right motivations are to do these things because you have to do them in order to, you know, still be alive in the time field. That's why I also say, like, you don't leave your parka at home intentionally and then say, I'm going to go to Mount Everest and I'm not going to die. Like, but what if someone said, like, okay, we're going to kill you. We're going to put you on that mountain. We're going to kick you out of the helicopter with no parka and you're going to die. So it's like you have no choice. It's been taken out of your hands. Then I would say Merkaba and, you know, keep yourself alive and stay alive in that way. So there's actually some stories of monks who were being suppressed in China by the newly coming like communist regime. They did some pretty amazing superhuman things with all of their training that they had been cultivating for many years to survive the tortures, the torments. There was one monk in particular that was put into like the 1950s Chinese soldiers. They put him like in a cell, frozen, no food, no water, whatever, and they thought like this guy's gonna be dead. Come back the next day and he's not dead. Like, so I think it's that type of circumstance. So to clarify, you don't want to do these type of magical Merkaba things for egotistical purposes, selfie while ascending to show how fabulous you are to the rest of the world. You do want to do these things as the natural solution to not dying under extreme circumstances that you didn't necessarily create for yourself. Yeah. Miniman says, do I FRL space travel with or without my body in the end result? Ooh, really good. I would say that in the real highest sense, you do space travel without quote unquote a body, but just with a sense of consciousness. That's far ahead. That's like saying, whatever, if we're on the first chapter of the book, like that's chapter, 27. We haven't gotten there yet, but that's eventually how you do space travel. It's also eventually how you do sense of self. Like right now, most of us, our sense of self is, I have a face, I have two hands. Like if you look down and see your hands, you're like, oh, that's me. But like, what do you do if you look down and you don't see two hands? If you look in the mirror, you don't see a face. Like, you got to get to that level of development before you're ready to do like space travel with no, physical embodiment. And also, you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to be like, I'm a lone penguin flying across space. No, like you can do it with a flock of many other penguins along with you. If there are any more questions, I will answer them. If not, I will end the broadcast for right now and the upload for right now, so it won't be too long. So, okay, just say thank you. I'm taking a break on homework for this week, but I will come back with more homework for you guys for next week. So thank you so much to everyone. I'm just going to end the recording.